Hi folks, it's Keith, Victor Echo 3 Sierra Victor Quebec and Victor Alpha 3 Kilo Echo India in Morse code. Here today, which is basically a wrap-up video I had promised when I started this almost exactly a year ago. I mentioned in a video, I think it was December the 14th of last year, that I was going to look into studying Morse code, or CW as we call it. And that's when it was. So here we are, it's December the 18th, so almost exactly a year later, and certainly made some progress, had some frustrating times as well, but made a lot of progress. And so that's really what I want to do today is wrap that journey up a little bit. There's a series of videos on here. They're sort of all linked together so you can look at them all and see some of the frustrations and some of the good points as I went through this past year. Now, what's interesting about all of this for me is that when I started it, my only experience with Morse code was from roughly 1990 to 91 and hated it, absolutely hated it, hated the teaching, hated learning. And in the end, after making, I think it was one contact, one official contact, I never used it again for over 30 years. And this year being the first time since basically 1991. So there you go. I'm at the point now where I absolutely love Morse code, and I spend almost all of my time on it. I hunt parks in Morse code. I actually unhooked my microphone and my headset from my radio. It's not even on my radio anymore. And this is because I'm just having fun doing this. And I think the biggest issue for most of us, I'm going to call it ego. We don't want to make mistakes. We don't want to send something on the air that, we stumble over or doesn't come out right, or you screw up a letter, whatever. So we get very hesitant to do it. And I think that's one of the biggest issues, especially with some of us in the older generation. And yes, we can all learn. I'm no youngster. And you can definitely learn Morse code. There's excellent organizations, CWAPS Academy, Long Island CW Club, and so on out there that will help get you through this. And yes, it will be frustrating at times, but you persevere, you practice, and there's different people suggesting different methods of practice and so on, and that's fine. You do the one that works for you. A lot of the people simply say twice a day, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day in the morning, 10 to 15 minutes in the afternoon, and just keep plowing away. It can definitely work. Long Island CW Club has a setup now where you can join any one of their what they call BC1, which is their carousel number one, their beginner class. You can log into that Zoom class anytime. Doesn't matter what day of the week. They're doing certain letters that week, and you can start from there. You don't have to wait for a program to restart. You can join any time. Now, they charge a fee. I think it's about $30 for 1 year, $100 for a lifetime membership, US dollars, obviously. But well worth it. Wonderful instructors, wonderful courses, and not just learning Morse code, but on other aspects. They have people there who use what we all call boat anchors, which were these great big old radios from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Mine, when I first started, was an HW 101, which was a huge radio. It was, great radio, but compared to the size of them now, it's probably 2 or 3 times the size. So these are things that you can do when you get into it. So for me today, it's to do a CQ call. Now, for those that don't know more, CQ is basically an abbreviation or a code, if you want to. Basically says, is there anybody out there? And if there is, and someone hears it and they answers, then you have a conversation going. You've seen this in some of the other videos with the K1USN SST, where someone is sending a CQ, their call sign SST, so you know that's what they're in, and you answer it, and then you have a quick exchange and so on. So in this case, it's to actually have a conversation. Now, one of the things I noticed was that when I first started, I was doing a lot of scrolling, a lot of looking around for um, someone who was going slow enough for me to find them. And this is a common complaint. So trying to find people who would do it slow enough so that you could copy them and get, have practice copying and learning the sequence and learning the protocol of how you go back and forth and so on. And then it was one of the Long Island instructors, Evan, K2 EJT, Juliet Tango. And he responded to a student who was complaining about this and said, go try the reverse beacon network. So I did. And I actually made a video on that just prior to this one. You wonder, like I say, it's all in your mind. It's a mind game. Just go out, like Nike says, just go out and do it. And what really surprised me was the number of people doing Morse code at about 7 words per minute, which is quite slow. But they were having fun. They were having good exchanges with other people doing 7 words a minute. And I can remember listening to and copying an exchange between a young person down somewhere on the eastern states that was an 11-year-old doing 5 to 7 words a minute, talking to all sorts of people. And I thought, geez, if a 5 words per minute, he's having a good time. So why am I worried whether I can do 8 words, 10 words, 11 words, 12 words? It doesn't make a difference. It's all about having fun. So here we go. How many are out there sending in slow speed? And you can have wonderful conversations with them. It's not blistering fast. You can take your time. If you miss a letter, it's not a big deal. So you can go for it. So today it's my turn now to go. Instead of answering a CQ call, it'll be my turn to make one. See if I can get my first one done and get over that hump, because that's the last hump I've got. Now I'll show you my setup in just a couple of minutes, and just want to point out a couple of other things, just a few small things. It's not like in the movies. So when you call, in my case, if I'm calling CQ or if someone else is calling CQ and I'm listening, you don't just press your key, send it, and somebody answers right away. It depends on the band conditions. It depends on the time of day. I find during the day there's obviously a lot fewer people on than say on a weekend. And if I'm hunting parks, when's the best time to do it? On the weekend, because there's so many more people out in them and more people sending at a slower speed. I find during the week and during the day tends to be a lot of faster people on, but there's always someone slow. So sometimes you're just going to sit and call CQ minute after minute after minute and try and find someone. It doesn't always happen every time you do it. The other thing is there's certain things that you're going to need to recognize. And one is just very simply, let me just turn my radio off of transmit for a minute. One, for instance, is going to be the question mark, right? You hear that all the time. You hear that all the time. A lot of the time, it's when someone's trying to pick your call sign out. It might be, let's say in my case, they might have VA3 and miss the last part. So they will send VA3, then the question mark. So I know they've got part of my call, but not all of it. That's a very, very common one. I mean, you hear that, like I say, an awful lot. Another one that you need to know is your call. How's that? You send your call all the time when you practice. And yeah, it sounds normal and you can pick it out. Wait till somebody sends it to you, especially if the conditions are bad or very noisy. So you have to be able to recognize your own call. And that's one of the advantages of taping yourself and taping yourself sending practice messages using your call and not someone else's other call. And you get used to hearing your call. So when you play it back, can you pull your call out? Did your call make sense to you? Things like that. Then there are a couple of other abbreviations that we hear a lot. One is when somebody turns the message back to you. So sometimes they use K, the letter K, and that will come back. So they'll send a whole string of information, then they'll go K, or they're going to go, it's a letter BK, which is like a break. And that means, your turn. So that could come through. You'll hear that. and basically you're going to reply at that point. And if you want the other person to take over the call, you can send the same thing. There's all sorts of different things that come out and abbreviations that you learn. If you're going to go sending, post somewhere, for instance, the SKCC scheduling page, you can post that you're going to do QRS, which is slow speed Morse code. So different things. So little things can make it easier, and your ear over time gets tuned to listen to all of that. So at this point, I've done 38 parks and had some 13 conversations on the radio where I have answered people's CQ calls. So now it's my turn to try and want to get that over that hump. Because once you've done it once, it doesn't make any difference after that. So that's the ICOM 7300 there. It's set up now for a straight key because there are settings in there that you can set, straight key or paddle. So it's set up. There's my little notepad there if you want, where I can write down the information, and I have the basic information I'm supposed to send. That's my Morse code key there, and I honestly don't know who made it. It was from 1991. It's a great key, and you can sort of see it sitting there. I really like it, but I don't know who made it. So if someone out there does know who made that one, I'd appreciate hearing. Let's see what happens. Well, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it and managed to stay with me. Yeah, mistakes and all. Let's just show it the way it is. Let's not show anything perfect because very few of us are perfect. Now, it's interesting to note that after the first contact, I was on the Straight Key Century Club or the SKCC scheduling page, and I had posted there because I wasn't getting anything when I called, and I said I'm on this frequency. If anyone wants to talk. So one person answered. That's the one you heard. The first one you heard. He answered, which was very nice because they all know what it's like when you do your first time calling someone or calling CQ. So he was very nice to do that, and I had barely put his information into my logbook. And another person from Texas, which is the second one that came on, he replied almost right away as well and said, "Well, if you're on, I'd like to chat." So there you go. Friendly people, lots of fun, and yeah, that's in the book. So we can rack that up as one more thing done, and from here on in, just get on the air and do it. Now, for those that, here, turn that radio down there. For those that managed to stay with me through all of that, I will put a link down below to the Long Island CW Club. And I will also put a link to one Howard, Howard Bernstein, who's one of the founders of the club. He does fairly lengthy interviews with some of the other amateur clubs around North America for the most part, and just answers questions and talks about how they teach. So I'm going to put a link to one of his, and if I remember right, that one was called "Don't Let the Code Beat You." It's an excellent one if you're thinking of doing Morse code or just starting it or doing it on your own. Listen to that one. It'd be well worth it. In the meantime, thanks to all of you for following me. And, if you liked what you saw, just click the like button. You can also follow us as we go along. Keith Beardsley. Victor Echo 3, Sierra Victor Quebec, and Victor Alpha 3, Kilo Echo India. Wishing you a great day.